Welcome to Sports World. I'm Patrick. Today I'm here with the head coach of the Mercyhurst women's hockey team, Michael Sisti. So, Michael, thank you for coming to the podcast today. Um, Obviously, at Mercyhurst, you guys have a long history of having the NCAA Division One program there. So, sort of just give me obviously, you also played some college hockey back in the day before you became the assistant coach at your alumni and then ended up going to Mercyhurst. You've been at Mercyhurst for now 26 years, correct?
Well, I actually 32 because I was with our
32.
men's team for 6 years uh, as their assistant and associate head coach, and then started our women's team 26 years ago. So this is our 26th season
Okay.
of the women's team.
And so, if you could give me what your biggest influence, who was your biggest influence as a coach, and what sort of kept you motivated to become a coach?
Well, obviously, I was fortunate growing up in Buffalo, New York. Had a lot of great coaches growing up, but I played college at Canisius for Brian Kavanaugh, and when I was done playing, tried to see if I could play in the minors a little bit. And while I was waiting to sort that out, he needed an assistant coach and asked if I would help him a year. So I decided to do that, fully thinking I'd go back to try play after the year, and I ended up loving it. Worked with him, and got involved with coaching at Canisius, and really had a passion for it. So that really got me started. And after a couple of years there, Rick Gawkin called with a position here at Mercyhurst, and like I said. Worked with him for 6 years and was his associate head coach. And then after one of the Olympics, I think about 11 or 12 schools decided to start women's ice hockey, and Mercyhurst was one of them. And the administration at the time really wanted me to start the program, so I felt it was a great opportunity. I did some research. I wanted to make sure if I jumped in, I would be really excited about making the move. And I also wanted to make sure Mercyhurst was committed to helping us build a winner. And, after that, I took the position and had a great first team that got us off the ground and kind of put us on the map. And it's been awesome ever since.
And so, I know you mentioned you were on the men's side and and now you're on the women's side. So, the coaching philosophies they change from time to time. So, what is really your coaching philosophy, and how has it evolved over the years?
Well, I mean, obviously, just being a blue collar, coming from a blue collar family, like, you know, I've always liked teams and players that work hard and play with pride and love to compete. It's kind of what helped me get to where I am. So regardless if it was the men's or women's side, bringing in just quality people, quality student athletes that want to work hard and do well in all walks of life, and that's been a good starting point for us. So even our first the first women's team we brought in here, the ladies on that team said, "Hey, treat us like hockey players," and I've done that, and I've been so blessed to work with some amazing people, both our administration and the coaches I've had, and then certainly hundreds of awesome student athletes that have played for me that have done amazing things on and off the ice, but just great character people. So it's been a fun process, and obviously things change over the years. So as a coach, you have to change, and as far as the philosophy is, it really changes on our personnel. I think it's the head coach's job to figure out a way for a team to be successful based on their strengths and weaknesses. And, that's something we take pride in. So, we don't necessarily play the same exact system every season. It really depends on our team and, who we have. But some of the things that are consistent are our work ethics and our compete level. I think those have really helped the longevity of our success here.
And you mentioned Mercyhurst was the one of the pioneers to bring women's hockey into the NCAA. at the same time, Mercyhurst, from what everybody that I've heard, has been a powerhouse in the NCAA, and for many years. So, what do you think has been the key to sustaining that particular success at Mercyhurst, given all the other bigger schools that have joined into the sport itself?
Well, I'd like to think our work ethic, and just the pride that I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of assistant coaches come through here and work extremely hard to find players and to help our players improve and get better. So, that's been a key component. The administration helping us, continue to do the things we need to do to stay relevant, stay competitive. And then obviously I go back to the players, we just love to compete here. And the student athletes we've been able to bring in, they buy into our systems, they buy into how we do things, and they work really hard to represent the school well on and off the ice. And those are some of the factors that have helped us continually be successful. And again, like you want to get to the NCAA tournament every year. We've done really well over the years, but we haven't got there every year. But I think even on the years that are maybe for us an off year, we're still winning 18, 22, 23 games a season, and we're in the hunt. And I'd like to think we're never an easy win for an opponent. And some of those things have helped us stay relevant. Pat, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Uh, so you talked about the players and the way the players sort of they buy into the system and all that. But so how do you approach balancing an individual's players development and their team, and having team success for your team? And then what role do you think leadership and team culture play in your coaching strategy?
Well, hitting with the last two first, the leadership and the culture are some of the most important things with any successful team. Right now we literally have players from all over the world, but they mesh together well because they're good people. They're very motivated. They have drive. They want to do well in school. They want to do well in hockey, and they're just good people that are fun to be around. So that culture, it kind of spreads. Everyone blends together well, and they get along well, and it just makes the days easier and more fun. The leadership's super important because our leaders have to pave the way for the younger players, and they do a great job. They're some of our hardest workers. They compete unbelievable. They do well in school. So when a young player comes in, and they see some of our best players putting extra time in the weight room or on the ice, it just kind of gets contagious. So I think those two things are super important, for any successful program, and as far as buying in, again, that's the leadership too. The team really understands that, hey, if we want to be successful, we got to do it together. We have players playing for their national teams. So it's our job. Like our coaching staff takes a lot of pride in helping our players continue to improve individually, knowing that's going to help them, but it's also going to help our team win games. So that's something we always do. There's a lot of extra ice available for our players to work with coaches all the time. And then, obviously to play our systems, you can't win a game individually, and again, with the leadership our players buy into, like for us to win, which they all want to do, they got to be accountable for doing their job and playing our systems well. And I think any coach in any, sport will tell you there's 100 different systems you can have to win a game. The key is having everyone on the same page and executing them. And that's what makes the coaches look good when a team does that.
Yeah, definitely. I've gotten to see all these different systems, and what you just said, the buy-in is the big thing. And so you had mentioned it. Mercyhurst, they've you guys have had some top tier talent come out of there, and that also includes international players. Um, do you what do you think makes your program so successful at developing high level players, including the international players?
Well, I think it's the time that we dedicate, to the players. There's one, we have great communication. Talk to our players, explain to them why we're doing what we're doing. But again, especially my assistant coaches, they'll be on the ice from 7 in the morning to 11 before we practice with any kids who want to come out and volunteer for skill sessions. When they have free time outside of their classes, and that's just dedication to wanting our help our players improve. And we've had some phenoms like Megan Augusta, who everyone knew before she came here. She was one of the best players in the world. She had a wonderful career both for us and internationally. And we've had a lot of players like that come through, but we've also had tons and tons of players that maybe weren't phenoms and they weren't in that top group before they got here, but after playing for us, gaining a lot of confidence, getting a lot of ice time, they've improved and they caught the eye of their national team coaches. They got invited to training camps and they were able to jump over some of those players that were maybe more sought after in the recruiting process. And that too, something we take a lot of pride in, that a kid could come in here and as a freshman get a lot of ice time, gain tons of confidence, and play against the best players in the world. And once their national teams see them do that and see how well they've improved, that really helps them for the future. And obviously we have a lot of players that played pro hockey as well, so that's a big plus for us.
Um, and then I do also want to ask you this question because we did talk about leadership just a minute ago, and so and you always talk about how your assistant coaches have helped you and uh, with making players successful. So, what role do you believe communication plays in a successful team? Whether it's from a coach or from the leadership of a player group.
It's a huge part of it. A lot of times the players want to know why. They don't mind doing something. They just want to know why they're doing it. So I think that has to be explained to them. So clearly there has to be good communication from the staff, and obviously the staff to the players, and the captains are a big part of things too. That they're comfortable coming to talk to us, and voice some opinions, ideas, thoughts they have, and then also they can help relay some messages and explain some things, to the team. They're a big part of what we do because they spend so much time behind the scenes and they see more than we see. And that's why that communication is so important.
And then, Michael, is there by any chance, can you share an experience where you've had to resolve a conflict with the team of any team that you've coached?
Well, I think there's a lot of times, like the biggest thing is how you handle losing, and it's pretty easy if you're winning every game. I think the toughest thing is if a team's not playing well and or a team's not having the success they hope to have. Everyone's a little grumpy, and I think how you manage those situations are really important, and finding the right mix of you know uh, communication, what you're doing in your practice sessions, and what the team, trying to figure out what the team really needs and what the reason for maybe having some setbacks is. And that is a challenging part, I think, for any coach, to put your finger on what can you do to fix whatever isn't going right. And that's kind of a trial by ear process. That's kind of using past experiences. So it's no doubt certainly how you navigate those situations can really make the difference of how your season ends up.
And then, so as you've mentioned before, and we've talked a little bit here and there about it, you do have the international players, and you do have the players who you recruit, whether it's from the transfer portal or from uh, you know, when you're on those recruiting trips to go see them. So how do you scout and recruit players, and what qualities do you look for both on and off the ice?
Well, now with technology, things are different. You obviously you try to see as many players you can live, and then also with the different computer systems, you can see a lot of games of players, that you just rewatch their games through the computers. So we try to use everything at our resources. Even people we know who know us know about our program. Maybe they sent us past players, maybe they played for us, getting feedback from them. And then every coach is a little different. Obviously, you want super skilled players, but it really depends what your team needs are. Do you need a mobile defenseman, that sees the ice really well? Do you need to maybe get tougher and stronger on defense? Do you need a power forward for in front of the net? You need a center who could, create plays and make things happen. So a lot of times it is dependent on the year and the recruiting class. You clearly want to try to get the best players available that are quality people, quality student athletes that could be successful at your school. And then you also maybe can fine tune it to your exact needs and what helps your roster be more effective to play in the system you want to play.
And then, you know, what we talk about all different systems in general, because I know on the East Coast it's sort of a hockey heavy, um, you know, area with the Boston schools and then all the New York schools that are there. Um, so how do you prepare for your specific opponents, particularly in the is it the AHA or the CHA now?
AHA.
Okay. AHA. So how do you guys prepare for those particular
Well, we
opponents?
we play teams from all the leagues. Like what's nice is with our schedule, we have our league opponents, but we also have 10 to 14 extra games to play teams from other leagues, which is nice for our players, to see different schools and compete against different types of opponents. Our league teams, we obviously know better. We see them more often. And some of the coaches that have been at a particular school a while, may play a similar system year after year with maybe just some tweaks. But we'll usually watch a lot of their games, look at their special teams, look at their tendencies. We'll show what we think is important to our players. If there's something that we think we could exploit or we have to make sure we defend well, we may add that to our practice structure so we're prepared, for the upcoming opponent and go from there. We try not to do too much, that our players either are confused or overthinking things, but we give them what we think is enough to be well prepared for whoever they play, so they're not surprised for anything that they might throw at us.
Uh, yeah, and so I do also have sort of this question. Every player is going to be different, like you mentioned, and the practice will make you perfect, right? Is always what we hear. So, what specific areas do you focus on most before a game? Is it tailored to each individual different player, or you know, I've had one coach that I've interviewed, and they were talking about how their players they'll come in even when they're not on a the rink's not in practice session at the time, just sort of to get their skills up before a game, at least a big game.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of individual sessions available in the mornings for our players here. And, as far as our practice week, we try to do a mix of drills that help all our players with their individual skill level. And then we also have a portion of practice where we might work on the power play or the penalty kill or D zone coverage, maybe our forecheck. A lot of time it's weekly. If there's an area that we feel we were maybe a little sloppy on, that we have to go back and just kind of review for the players, or any of those things that just helps us be better each week. We could tweak our practice week, to put in whatever we think's most important at that particular time of the season.
And then with as long of a season as hockey season is, you know, how important is mental toughness in hockey, and then how do you help players develop it?
Well, I think it's tricky because you got your personal life where mental toughness is one area, but nobody's Superman, and people got to know when they need help and when to ask for help. No one's perfect. No one should have to carry heavy burdens alone. So it's one end, it's encouraging people that if they're having tough times or they need help with something, to reach out, and then from a hockey end, or an athletic end of toughness, I think the biggest thing is just trying to control what you could control. And it's easier said than done. But a lot of times, especially young players, they may be distracted or worried about a lot of things that they can't change, that, if maybe it's easier for them to perform well if they just try to, you know, control what they could control. And again, that's easier said than done, I know, but it's something we try to do is just try to simplify as many things as you can, both, in our case with the game of hockey, uh, so you could do the few things you're asked to do well. And then even with life, you have those days where you just feel like everything's going on, and sometimes you just got to step back, take a deep breath, and maybe simplify things. So um, I think obviously the more you're at peace and calm, is probably the best scenario to be at your best.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely. So what is your approach to in-game adjustments? Because I know every coach is going to be very different. Um, and then how do you analyze the game performance, and then how do you use that for data to improve the team every game?
Well, again, I have great assistant coaches, so that's a big part of things. But in a game, I think the trickiest thing is trying to figure out what a team did or an opponent did that they actually tried to do, and what was just accidental or an individual skill thing. Like if a player goes end to end, like that's more individual. Like I don't think they drew that up as a particular play. So the one thing is just trying to figure out, is there an area your team's getting exploited systematically, that the team's doing that you have to tweak something or change something, is there an area where maybe we're not executing our game plan properly, that we just got to talk to the team or remind them, to be in a particular place at a particular time. And again, assistant coaches doing a great job looking for those things. And you could talk about it in between periods. Sometimes there's adjustments made in between periods. Sometimes it's at a timeout or a TV stoppage. If you see an area where, again, that, something you might have talked about, you're not doing particularly well, it's another chance to kind of just hit the reset button with the team and discuss it. And then we'll send clips to players. We'll send clips to the team after games and after a weekend. We'll also on Mondays we'll go over some clips from the weekend. Some teaching points. That the players can look at and learn from. And then obviously it's always good to show the team doing things exactly the way we wanted to do them. So also in those clips, there certainly should, can be some negative points or some teaching moments, but there's a lot of positive things to reinforce the team. Like, hey, we talked about this, we practiced this, now we applied it, and look at the results we got. This was really good. Everyone did a good job here. Let's keep doing that type of stuff.
And then Michael, obviously you've mentioned it. You've been at Mercyhurst for over 30 years now. Um, what was your most memorable moment coaching there? And is there a particular game or season that stands out to you?
Well, fortunately, there's been a ton. There's been too many to pick one. For sure. And I think again that's the credit to all my assistant coaches and the great players I've been lucky to coach over the years. We've had many memorable moments. If it was league victories, if it was the first time maybe the pioneers of our program went into a well-established team or a top 10 team and beat them. If it was an NCAA appearance, like our first NCAA appearance, we went to Harvard, and I think they had 4 or 5 Olympians, and a lot of people thought we'd get killed in that game, and it went to triple overtime. At the time, it was one of the longest college hockey games, and there's just been a lot of times where on center stage, our team has performed extremely well. Which obviously I'm very proud of. I remember too one time. The first time we were number one in the country in all the polls. I believe we were playing Princeton here, and in warmups, it was a sellout crowd chanting "We're number one," and that was pretty memorable. Pretty cool, also. But if fortunately, there's been a ton, and I'm really proud of them. And it'd be really tough to put one at the top of the list.
And of course, you've coached a lot of successful players. Is there one particular memorable one, or even an athlete that made it special to work with them?
Well, there too, there's been a lot. Like there's no doubt. Megan Augusta, I believe she has slightly over 300 points, and that's in 4 years, not 5 years with the COVID year. I believe that's an NCAA record. I think she has a few more NCAA records. Just one of the best women's players ever, I think. Vicky Bendis, who was 5 feet tall, and just one of the smartest players we've ever had. Megan Augusta won almost every award imaginable, and 4 years in a row was the runner-up for the Patty Kaz, and I believe she should have won that award, but was just amazing player. But Vicky Bendis won the Patty Kazmaier Award here at Mercyhurst. She also won at the time the Elite 88 Award as the best student athlete at the Frozen Four, pre-med major. So tons of great goalies went through here. At the time, Hillary Patton was the first goalie to get 100 wins, and then she got passed over the years. But we've been blessed with just great people and great players in our program, and I could go on all day. And then so many of them just been phenomenal students, and have done amazing things in the classroom and then afterwards as well. So a lot of quality people have come through our program.
So, what is the best piece of advice that you have received as a coach and has helped you shape your approach to the game?
Well, that'd be a tough one. I think a lot of that is learning. I would say think before you speak, but that's probably a good one in life as well as coaching. And the one thing over the years, which I really think has helped me maybe be at my best now, is I'm much more patient, and I really I let my assistant coaches do a lot more and handle a lot more, and they're amazing at it. And really getting a lot of feedback from the players has helped. It's really a collaboration, and it's working really well for us.
Sorry,
There you go.
had something
Yep.
happen with the screen for there for a minute. You know, uh, every season presents new challenges. What has recently been one of the biggest challenges that you have had to face recently, and then how did your team respond to them?
Well, I think this year we have an awesome group, and they're doing everything right. And out of the gate, we won a couple big games, but we really struggle scoring in the first 10 games of the season or so, and the team really is doing everything right. So we've lost 1-0, we've lost 2-1, and we're playing really well. And I think that was a challenge for us, and we're kind of kicking the door down and breaking through it now, and really starting to be at our best with our offense, which is helping us win some key games. And I think the key to that was just staying the course. Our even though we lost some hard fought, tough games, our team stayed very positive. We stayed very positive with our belief in them and their ability. And we kept doing a lot of the same things because we felt we were on the right track. So I think that's been big. Like I believe our first 10 games were all against top 10 teams. So, we were playing great competition and we were playing really well. The goals just weren't coming easy for us. And not that they're coming easy now, but a lot of the habits that we've built, we stayed with, and they're starting to pay dividends. So I think that's been a key for us so far this season.
And then as a coach, I know it's a very demanding job to be in as the head coach. So how do you, sort of, particularly at the college level, because you're trying to get players ready for their professional career, how do you balance recruiting and player development along with game preparation?
Well, everyone does it differently. I put a lot of faith and trust in my assistant coaches. So Trey Flesh, Scott Spencer, they've been on the road a lot more than me. I get on the road a little bit, do a lot from the video, but they handle the heavy lifting. And AJ Weiss now, one of our ex players, young coach, is going to start getting on the road as well. So I really I rely on them a lot to get in the trenches and see a lot of kids live and then give me the feedback based on them knowing the type of player that I like and that could thrive in our program. And, I'll still get looks at them, but, they do a ton of it, which really helps me out.
Um, and then looking ahead, sort of at Mercyhurst, what are your goals for the Mercyhurst Women's Program over the next few years, and what can we expect from this year's team?
Well, our goals haven't changed. We want to we want to improve throughout the season. We want to always compete with great pride and respect for our opponents. And each year we try to win our league. We try to win our league playoffs. We try to get to the NCAA tournament and win as many games as we can along the road. Continue to improve, and we try to put real life, first. You want to win every hockey game, but we understand there's more to life than hockey. And it's important our kids have a real good experience and continue to thrive in the classroom. And so those are kind of the basic starting points. And as far as this year's team, I think the sky's the limit. We really like this group. They're good people. They work hard every day, and they have a passion to win. And like I said, some of those games early, we won a couple, big games against top 10 opponents. We lost a couple close ones, but this team believes in themselves, and they're playing really well right now. We got a tough stretch here. We got 4 games in 6 days, and then we finish up with 7 games in 13 days, which is a lot for college hockey. So, they're fun to be around, and I think the sky's the limit on what this team can accomplish.
And then, so I do also have this question for you, Michael. We know everything's changing in the NCAA right now, as time is going on. So, how do you see that impacting hockey? You know, at the NCAA level, and then sort of, uh, how is that impacting that? And then on top of that, we've had a player glut in the NCAA for a while now, um, where there's not enough NCAA Division One schools who where NCAA Division One players can go to, and they sort of have to go to that Division Three school, including a few internationals. So how do you sort of balance that, and then the future of hockey in the NCAA at the moment?
Well, I think what's good is um, there is a plan to try to continue to help schools um, research and figure out, if they can add hockey both on the men's and women's side. And right now, I think hopefully we can keep adding programs, which is always important. But I always felt there's a place for everyone to play. If it's D1, D3, club hockey. There's a lot of club hockey teams out there as well. So hopefully we'll continue to grow and add programs, as we move forward here in the future.
And so I'll sort of ask you two more questions here, real quick. Hockey has changed from the past. Where do you see it being in the next 5 to 10 years?
Real good question. I think um, things are really moving forward with taking out the physicality and making it a real finesse skill game. So I would think that will continue. It's amazing what some of the players can do with their hand-eye coordination and the speed. It's always impressive to watch the pro hockey players and see how fast they are and how good they are live. So I would encourage anyone who loves watching hockey on the computer or TV, see it live and you'll be even more impressed. So I'm just hoping we continue to advance, the skill level and the speed of the game, continue to have more options for women to play pro hockey and get sustainable salaries. I think that's nice if we can keep that momentum moving forward. That'd be good for everybody.
And then the very last question, what do you think needs to happen for the women's league to continue to be um, in terms of visibility and support? Definitely, since we finally got the PWHL after many failed leagues that have been around for a while. Um, so yeah, what do you think needs to happen in women's hockey, just in general, to grow the sport itself?
Well, hopefully we could continue this momentum. It's awesome. I think clearly people going out to see the games is really important. With obviously the ticket purchase and the merchandise purchase is really good to grow the game. So I think as long as the product continues to be at such a high level, hopefully it's just a matter of time before we go from 6 to 8 to 12 teams and really grow this. But I love the momentum right now, and again, with people supporting it by coming out seeing the games live, that's gonna hopefully help us continue to grow.
All right, well, thank you, Michael, for coming on the podcast. I wish you a great rest of the season.
Awesome, thanks for having me, Patrick. We'll
Thinking,
see ya.